Hello, so I'm Reece. I'm the host of the Northwest Emo Show, and here I'm today with Lana. I'm going to be interviewing her. We're going to be speaking about her blog, her photography, and a few different bits. So, do you want to start by introducing yourself?
I'm Lana. I'm the founder of Music Is to Blame. I've just turned 21 and I'm from Manchester.
Brilliant. That's great. So, could you tell us a little bit more about Music Is to Blame? What do you cover? What kind of publication is it? Is it mainly online?
It is a strictly online publication just because we don't get any funding or anything, so I wouldn't be able to do like a physical one. But that kind of like it is kind of the dream to be able to do that one day. We mainly cover indie and rock music and alternative, but we do have a few contributors who are into like rap and pop, and if they do say, oh, like Ariana Grande's got a new single out. Do you mind if I cover it? I'm just like, yeah, just go for it. But most of the PR companies we work with, they are indie and alternative more than anything.
Brilliant. And that's amazing. So, these contributors that you mentioned, how can people get involved in the publication? How do people go from just reading to kind of writing themselves as well? What do you look for in writers?
We don't look for anything in particular. Like we don't want like you to send us like a CV or anything, or we aren't going to say, oh, you need to have experience in writing. Just as long as you like music and you're willing to learn more than anything. We do send out a Word document when you join the team, like with info on how to do everything. So it's really relaxed, and we do cater for beginners because I don't have any professional training myself. Like I started it all myself, so it'd be a bit unfair if I was then going, oh, we want graduates and people who are studying it. No, we just literally anyone who fancies having a go.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. I've got no formal training, and I just do what I enjoy. So when you mention contributors, is it mainly people that write? Do you have photographers as well that get involved in the blog?
So I didn't start making, so it was me just running it myself for like the first few years, but then when lockdown first happened, summer, was it 20, it was last year, when it 2020, I just kind of I was like, right, there's no gigs, there's nothing else. Like I got a bit bored of just doing the reviews all myself, so I was like, right, everyone else is bored, let's see if anyone wants to get involved. So I've only been Music Is to Blame as a collective for about 7 months now, and since then I've currently got 300 contributors under my wing. We do have some of them who are trained as photographers, but we haven't had any of those opportunities yet just because gigs are on hold. But before that, I was the sole photographer for the blog as well, so like
Brilliant,
before lockdown happened.
amazing. How do you deal with having 300 different contributors? How do you keep a handle on everyone at the time?
I I honestly I don't know. I don't know how I do it. I get other people asking me, so, how do you do it? I was like, I don't really know. Like I do spend like a few hours on my laptop a day, but I don't mind it. It doesn't feel like a job or a chore because it's just something I enjoy doing. Like everything's conducted over email. So it's like it's no stress or anything. It's just really fun.
Brilliant. Well, that's exactly what it's supposed to be, and I
Yeah.
guess that it's a really fulfilling project for you. You've been doing it for quite a while. You mentioned before you took on every different contributor and ended
Yeah.
up with 300 people. What made you start doing it so young? Like, how did you get that inkling? Because not many people figure out that they want to take on like a project like that so early on.
Well, like I started it when I was 15, so in 2015, the November. And it was when I was in year 10 at school. And I don't know, I was just a bit bored. And it did start as like, it wasn't primarily a music blog, it was just me writing shit about shit and like everything I could. I just wrote random stuff. But then one of my close friends, Josie, I met her in 2017, and like we talked about because I was the Wonder Why back then. It wasn't Music Is to Blame. This was when I was in like my peak Wolf Alice phase, and I was like, oh, the hidden track at the end of the Wonder Why. I'm gonna call my blog after that. And I don't know how it came about, but she ended up getting us to do photography and reviews at a few signings around Manchester. So we ended up doing The Big Moon, Blyneven, and then Wolf Alice a few months later. And it was kind of after then that I was like, wow, I like doing photography and writing about music. And then that's kind of when it became a music oriented blog. And then I started doing reviews at concerts. I remember one of the first reviews I ever did was No Hot Ashes at Sound Control, way back when it still existed. And it kind of just shot off from there. So I was like doing these little bands like No Hot Ashes, Clear Green, stuff like that. And then literally like the week before lockdown started, I was doing photography for Stereophonics at the arena. So it's kind of, it has grown quite a bit in just the few years that I've been doing it myself.
Yeah.
Sorry if I rambled on a bit then.
No, that's perfectly fine. That's amazing, because this is kind of a real story about the underground moving up. I mean, you mentioned No Hot Ashes. That band have gotten even bigger as the blog's grown as well,
Yeah.
which must be really interesting to see. I know that when I started doing interviews and reviews, like when I first came to Manchester, like September of 2019, there's bands that I saw then quite small that have gotten fairly big now, like Casey Lowry, beach surf poppy stuff, and he's massive in different countries around the world. How was it getting started, like first contacting these PR, getting those first gigs? Because I assume it's kind of a bit of a snowball effect where it was more difficult at the beginning and then it got easier and easier as people had seen that you'd written and shot before.
Yeah, like I can't really remember how it started, but I remember that I got my first gig by I saw that No Hot Ashes were playing Sound Control. I think I literally just went on their Facebook, saw that their management was listed, and I just emailed them on a whim and I was like, hey, you looking for anyone to come review the show? And it just started like that. Then I kind of realized that okay, you can just reach out to them. And so I started reaching out to bands themselves on Instagram, and then they tell me that they're under a PR company and to get into contact with them. And then the PR people have put me like on their mailing lists. And it's kind of just snowballed from there. Like more PR people will put me in contact with more people. The more bands you review will get you on their mailing lists. And it is just a massive snowball effect. You just need to take that first plunge into it.
Amazing. I mean, that is really good, and I think that's something that everyone can learn as well. If you've
Oh
never
yeah,
done journalism or anything like that before, that these bands do want to be covered, and you can literally go and do it. Anyone can get started. So have you got a few favorite bands that you've covered over the time with Music Is to Blame? Are there any specific articles or anything that stands out? Maybe someone that you shot. I know you mentioned Stereophonics at the arena. Are there any gigs like that stand out that you're like, that was amazing?
so the first time I realized that I was actually getting somewhere was when I was doing photography for Fuzzy Sun and Blocks supporting the Wombats at Castlefield Bowl. And I took my best friend Matthew with me, and we were both kind of just there with our cameras, and we were like, shit, is this actually happening? And then we got to stay afterwards and watch Sundara Karma and the Wombats as well. And we were like, he just kind of looked at me and I looked at him and I was like, I'm actually doing something here. Like, this is actually something. And then as soon as I covered that gig, it kind of like just blew up. In my first year at uni, so 2019, I did photography for Cage the Elephant, Two Door Cinema Club, Jake Bug, Happy Mondays, Libertines, and I was just like, those few months were just like a crazy whirlwind of just photography. And whenever I get put on a press list, I always panic that day thinking, oh my God, this isn't actually happening. Like, I'm going to get there. My name's not going to be on it. I'm going to have a right kerfuffle. I'm going to turn up and be like, hi, Music Is to Blame, I'm doing photography. And they got to turn around and be like, we've never heard of you. Like, go away. But like, everyone in the industry is so friendly. And like, it's just brilliant. But they're some of the best people I've done photography for. And I've done quite a few interviews. Like one of my favorite interviews I've done, apart from DMAs for the Mancunian, of course, was a singer called Bessie Turner. She was supporting Gengar, Band on the Wall. I think it was early 2020. And we just had such a lovely little chat. Like, it just like, before I started this, I used to think as musicians as these like untouchable people, like they're gods. And I don't know, once you've met them, it brings them down to earth and makes you realize that they are just people. They do just want to have a chat with you. And it's so weird to be on that side of the music industry. rather than being the fangirl front row.
Yeah, it's a very strange experience because there's kind of this idol complex with, oh my god, it's this band I love. But I think it's even more endearing when you realize that they are just normal people. You're like,
Yeah,
oh, so you're just a normal bloke, but you also wrote one of my favorite pieces of music of all time. You know what I mean?
exactly.
It is a strange situation, but that is also something anyone should know if you're considering writing or taking photography or starting your own publication or anything. Everyone wigs out, everyone freaks out a bit. I think everyone gets nervous before a gig. I've done it before. I've been at the ticket office at O2 Ritz, not able to get in, ringing my editor last year, like they've not got my name on the list, and then it all works out and it's fine. Everyone panics, but it's an amazing experience and it's still well worth a go. What would you recommend if someone's looking to get involved with Music Is to Blame or to start writing at a publication like that? Is it best they just shoot you an email? Is there a pitch system or?
Literally, if it's for me, I'm happy with you just shooting me an email or DMing the blog's Instagram, being like, "Hey, I'm interested in writing for you. Like, what can I do? What's the process?" Like, I don't want you to send me. I don't want a pitch or anything or a CV. Like, we're so relaxed, but I know that a few other, because since uni has calmed down for me now, I have like 3 modules that I'm doing this semester. I've been reaching out to other platforms to see if I can write for them as well. And one thing I've noticed is they do want a pitch. They want you to talk about your passions and interests and specifically why you want to write for them.
Yeah.
Like, one thing I've found is they do prefer people who are just starting out, because I've applied to a few places and they're like, well, you seem pretty established. Why do you want to write for us? So I think the best place to be in the industry, if you're wanting to get into it, is to just be a beginner. Just reach out to people, email them, and just introduce yourself and what you love about music. Always include your favorite bands and why you like them so much. Because if you mention someone specifically, like, oh, so they actually are interested in music.
Yeah. 100%, and it's always best to be yourself, be an individual, because all these publications, whether it's the Mancunian or Music Is to Blame, I'm sure they want that individual voice and why you like it, because that's what makes reading it so interesting. In terms of photography and the future, is there anyone specific that you'd love to cover, love to shoot? Anyone in particular that you could think that would be the dream if I could get behind the barrier at that gig?
So the dream for me was the Libertines. So I've kind of gone past that, and like the dream for me, it would be probably Wolf Alice. Like, I've shot for them at a signing, but it's just not the same as seeing them on stage. I was shortlisted to cover Leeds Fest as well last year before it got cancelled. My dream is to do a festival as well. Like, no matter how big or small it is, I just think it'd be so amazing to be able to shoot so many different people just on one day. That'd just be so cool.
100%. A festival is a massive thing for me that I'd like to cover and write about and interview. I think it's a very different scenario, because I remember just going to Reading and Leeds, like as a punter, as a fan, seeing all the people in the blue vests, like walking around with like lenses bigger than my chest, and just being like so in awe of like, oh, okay. So I've stood at the barrier for 11 hours to see Foo Fighters, but you're on the other side of the barrier. You've just walked in with a camera, and just being eternally jealous. But it is amazing. In terms of if anyone wanted to start their own publication, kind of similar to Music Is to Blame, do you have any specific tips for getting started, or is it mainly just a thing of give it a go?
It is just give it a go. Like, mine isn't on WordPress simply because I can't make a website for the life of me. Mine is just on Blogger. Like, I only bought my own domain like literally 3 weeks ago. So we were musicistoblame.blogspot.com, but we now are .co.uk.
Yeah.
But it's just give it a go. Like, I'd say Blogger is probably the easiest platform to get started on, just because you've already got your website template. You can like go in and manually edit stuff, which I ended up doing, but it's just so much easier. I mean, there's always YouTube tutorials as well on how to work WordPress or Wix or anything like that, but just go for it. Like, why not? There's no penalty for getting anything wrong. Like, you don't get penalized. Just go for it.
Brilliant. And that's where DIY works so well, because you have done this yourself. You've created this from scratch, and it seems to be really working out. People seem to love it, and you've certainly got people interested in writing for you. So more in terms of music and your taste, I wanted to get to know kind of who have you been listening to recently, any specific bands that you've discovered, anything that you'd recommend for listeners of the show, fans of Music to Blame, to check out.
See, I've not really discovered anyone new recently, just because uni, I like to just stick on something that I know. So it's like, if I ever shuffle Spotify and I'm doing work, I get distracted. I'm like, oh, who's that? I must know who they are and listen to their entire discography. So, but my favourite artists I've been listening to at the minute, Peach Pit, Wolf Alice. I really like Abbey Ozard's latest EP. And then just like the older stuff like the Beatles, Grateful Dead, stuff like that. My music taste like does span quite widely throughout like rock, indie and alternative. But then if I'm on an off day, you'll find me listening to Snoop Dogg or something. And you're like, what's wrong with Lana today? Just leave me to it. But yeah, if you're ever like friends with me on Spotify, you see what I'm listening to. It'll be like Sundara Karma and then Wolf Alice, then you'll get a random Snoop Dogg and then Dizzy Rascal or something, and then you'll jump back to the Beatles, and it's just like, that's a bit weird. Just
it's the best way to be. It keeps it varied. I mean, I certainly fall into that category as well. I know a lot of the stuff that we talk about is alternative and kind of emo on my show, but I'll go from that to like Chance the Rapper and then back again. And there's no set way. My playlists make absolutely no sense. But finally, just to kind of finish off, if there was one thing that you could have one thing that you would have wished to have known when you got started moving forward, do you have any advice, one thing that you wish you could have known when you started off the blog?
When I started, I thought the music industry was this big, scary place, and that if you asked for people for help or you reached out and was like, hey, I'm interested in an interview with you, I thought they'd just turn around and be like, you're this small publication, no one knows who you are, like, why would we want to do that with you? But it's actually the complete opposite. Bands love getting involved with people who are doing it for themselves, and PR companies are always happy to help you. And the music industry is a really lovely place. Well, from what I've seen of it anyway at the minute, like, I don't know what it's like once you start actually rising through the ranks and getting up there. I can imagine it's a dog eat dog world, but it is a really lovely place to be. You meet so many amazing people as well, and it's brilliant. Like, when I started it out, I never thought I'd be doing, like, if you would have told 15-year-old me that she'd be doing photography for the Libertines, and like, who I was obsessed with back then was Nina Nesbitt, and I got to shoot her in 2017. If you would have told me that, I would have broke down crying. I would have been like, no, I wouldn't. No, I'm not. But it's just an amazing place to be. But I don't think it's not necessarily something I want to do in the long run, but it is just something fun that I enjoy doing. It is a hobby. I don't get paid for it. I don't want to be paid for it, because then it turns into a job. It's just something I enjoy.
Yeah, that's brilliant. It's one of the most fulfilling things I've found as well. I absolutely love doing it. But thank you ever so much for having a chat. I'm really glad to hear that everything's going well and you're enjoying yourself. Make sure to go check out Music Is to Blame. And I'm sure we'll be sharing some stuff from there, some of Alannah's photography, on the Instagram page and our socials as well coming up. But thank you very much for listening. If you do want to know anything more about getting you involved in your own publication or writing or anything like that, I'm happy to help. If you see this and you want to get involved, send me a message on Instagram, send the show a message, and I'll sure to get back to you. But thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.